The midterms are less than a month away, and President Biden is hoping that his record in office will keep a Democratic majority in Congress. Well, Yahoo Finance's Rick Newman joins us now with more. And Rick, this is this week's Bidenomics here. You're going through, I guess, how President Biden is doing right now when you take a look at the economy. Jobs remains a bright spot here for him, but is it going to be enough?
You're going to hear Biden talking a lot about 10 million jobs created since he's been president. Is that a lot? Yes, that is a lot. That is actually the most jobs created in the first 20 months of any president's administration ever in the United States, the most ever. So you would think Biden's approval rating should just be sky high. But of course, it's not. It's down around 43%. More people disapprove of Biden than approve. So what's the problem? I mean, we know it's inflation, but the way we look at it in our Bidenomics report card, the biggest effect that inflation is having on consumers is it's denting their purchasing power, and that shows up in our metrics in income. We measure average hourly earnings for each of the last 8 presidents, and Biden is doing the worst of 8. So he's doing the best in terms of the number of jobs created, and he's doing the worst in terms of income growth. Real incomes actually have declined under Biden by about 2.4%. That's because inflation is going up more than paychecks are going up. So I think that those two things right there tell the story. They tell why Biden should be doing a lot better what he is. Inflation is bringing him down.
So then, Rick, when you think of the things that are most important to Americans going into the midterms, then where is Biden falling the most short? Where could he really at least do something about it, the things that are within his control?
What can he do about it? I mean, it's a great question. We've seen one of the things we've learned this year, Rochelle, is gas prices have more effect on consumer psyches than just about anything else. Even though the typical family only spends around 3% of its income on gasoline, there's been a direct correlation. When gas prices soared and hit $5 this year, consumer confidence went exactly the other way in just about the same proportion, and then consumer confidence improved as gas prices declined. We are now seeing upward pressure again on gasoline prices. We were talking last week about this production cut that the OPEC Plus nations announced. That's Saudi Arabia plus Russia and a bunch of others, mostly in the Middle East. That is already putting upward pressure on gasoline prices, and I think the Biden administration is going to be desperate to keep gas prices, at least on an average basis, below $4 by the time of the midterm elections on November 8th. That release of oil from the U.S. Strategic Reserve was supposed to end in October, but without saying much about it, the Biden administration has now extended some amount of oil releases into November, timed clearly at the midterm elections. And it's also possible they could release a little bit more oil just to keep gas prices down leading up to November 8th. So there's not a lot Biden can do on this, but that's one thing to look for. As for overall inflation, we got one more report coming on that this week, and we'll see what that has to say about what prices are like and how the Federal Reserve is likely to respond.
There was one costly fist bump with MBS in the long term. One of the inabilities for the Biden administration that will really forever haunt them, Rick, no matter what the issue is an inability to sell anything, in particular infrastructure and a lot of their accomplishments. What do you expect the final push to be from the Biden administration on their achievements?
I think they're going to keep it simple, Dave. I think it's going to be 10 million jobs. And then Biden gives a speech. He gets into the fine print. The fine print is, yes, we passed the Inflation Reduction Act. If it's called the Inflation Reduction Act, though, why isn't inflation lower? He's got some explaining to do on that. He did pass some bills. And, I think voters on the margins do give him credit for getting some of those things done. I mean, you can see it if you get deep into the polling data. But Americans just don't feel like things are going right. And I think that when inflation is high, we forgot about the corrosive impact that inflation can have on consumer attitudes, because we haven't had to deal with this really since the late 1970s. And we're getting a reminder all over again that inflation is really ruinous. It put in addition to reducing purchasing power and basically shrinking people's paychecks, it just puts everybody in a nasty mood. So I think we have to see inflation come down to the range of 5% before voters start to feel better about it. And there's no way that's going to happen by November.
No way indeed. Thanks as always, our very own Rick Newman. Thanks for joining us.